fellow developers, writers, and everyone who loves game design.
Welcome to DLC Not Included, our weekly podcast where we discuss game development, the industry, and everything in between.
We're your hosts, Steele
and Teal. Glad you could join us.
So we now begin lucky number 13, our 13th episode.
Yay!
This has officially made quite an interesting journey.
Yes, it has.
And we're going to continue the vein of season 1 being about being a developer.
Yeah.
By tackling something that we feel is very important, but often overlooked.
Yes, and that's running a game studio.
Right. This is going to be the business end of your indie game studio.
Yeah.
Now, this can apply to solo developers as well. If you're wanting to make creating games into a permanent source of income, a job, this podcast is 100% about you.
Now, it's important to know that with any small business, almost every person in your business will perform multiple roles.
Right.
In both setting up and your daily operations. Understand this is normal. It's expected. Y'all are going to wear multiple hats in the beginning.
Yes.
So
it is a lot of work being a small business owner of any type and succeeding. Is a lot of work. Entrepreneurship can be extremely rewarding.
Yeah.
Because you're your own boss, you make your own hours, you do your own thing, you work for you, and you answer to yourself. However, a butt ton, or as you say, a metric butt ton
of work
goes into this.
So because this is such a big topic, it really has a lot of parts, some of them moving parts, others not. We've kind of divided this up into 3 subsections to kind of help you guys move through this. We want to talk about setting up your studio and all that goes into that. We want to talk about actually operating the studio.
Correct.
Those day-to-day operations.
Right.
And then we have a little section that we call pitfalls because these are things that we've seen, either we've experienced or we've seen others experience or we've read about. And, we want to make you aware of some pitfalls so that you don't fall in the same trap.
Exactly. And a lot of the pitfalls, spoiler alert, have to do with how a person mentally goes into running a small studio.
Yeah.
As opposed to things that they actually would mess up during the operations, because operations are pretty cut and dry.
They actually are.
Having said that, you'll see when we get there. So, Teal being the business operator of Studio Blue is going to be leading. Thank you. Very welcome. You're going to be leading a lot of this.
I will, yeah.
But I will be, of course, working with you as we always do. Just for the people who are new, what is your qualification outside of having run multiple businesses? You're also educated. Tell us a little bit about what you've done.
Okay, so I got my MBA and from an accredited university. And I've also, in interim since then, I have run businesses. I've been a consultant for people who run businesses. I have done multiple hats. I've done everything from HR to payroll, bookkeeping, accounting. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Just marketing. I've done it all. So I have a lot of experience in a lot of different aspects of running a business.
Exactly. And keeping in with what Studio Blue does, turning our heartache into your success, we have also, and you personally have seen a lot of flops with small businesses.
Yeah. Whether it's family owned or a bunch of people getting together. I've seen it. I've seen all of it.
Yeah. So let's jump right on in.
Sure. So let's talk about one of the biggest things you need to focus on when you're setting up your studio is the legal aspect.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. And we need to preface, we're not lawyers.
No.
This is not legal
We
advice.
don't even play lawyers on TV.
We are not. We are not the Sam Waterstones. But what we're going to give you is the legal things you need to consider, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead.
So the first thing is you need to decide what type of business entity you want.
Yes.
Is it going to be a sole proprietorship? You are the solely, you're in charge.
You own all of it.
All of it. Is it going to be a partnership? With 2, 3, or 4 partners.
Studio Blue is a partnership. And what's the percentage, right? Because it could be like 50-50.
It could be 50-50.
49-51.
It could be that. It could be 60-40, 30-20. I mean, it doesn't, 30-70.
Right. Yeah.
Y'all will decide on the percentage of ownership
And
when you form your partnership.
Right, and just an FYI, whoever has the higher amount of percentage is the majority owner. The
Correct.
other is the minority owner. So if you had like 3 people, 33, 33, 34, there would be no majority or minority owner. But if you had 2 and it was 51-49, the 51 would be the majority owner and have the majority say.
Correct.
In a true equal partnership like us, it is a true 50-50 split. We both have to make controlling decisions.
Yes.
I know that's going a little bit off topic, and that's beyond the scope.
It's not really off topic, but you do need to decide who has the controlling interest.
There you go.
If there's going to be a controlling interest.
Right.
Okay, and getting off of partnerships, there's also corporations.
Yes.
And, of course, there's different types of corporations you can form.
Yes.
LLCs are always an easy way to protect yourself from business liability, whether you're a small group or a solo entrepreneur. But, there are also S corporations and things like that if you really want to go that route. But honestly, if you're just starting out, an LLC or an LLP, limited liability partnership, is a good way to go.
If I may, very quickly, because when we were forming Studio Blue, I had to study this a little in depth. And I want to brag about what I studied.
Okay.
Now, caveat: this is how things are done in the United States. So many countries are going to be doing it differently. Some do it similar. Check with your country's business formation laws.
Yes, please do your research if you're outside the United States and you're listening to us.
Yes, and seek legal counsel when necessary. So. Back to the thing. An LLC in the U.S. is not a corporation. It is a partnership. However, it's a layer of protection.
It is.
So if you decide that you want to be a partnership or a sole proprietor, either one, we highly recommend, if you're in the U.S., form an LLC, because it forms a level of protection where if someone sues you, if you're a sole proprietorship by yourself with no LLC, they can sue you. Personally.
Wow.
If you are a LLC owner, like we are, then they can sue the LLC, and you have that layer of protection. Corporations like S Corp and C Corp, which I don't know the difference between the two.
There's differences.
Are considered their own entity and have even further protection. But corporations are very difficult and complex.
They are actually difficult to form.
And for a small business, for a small studio, an indie studio that's small, or a solo developer, we will always recommend the LLC layer.
Right.
All right, so now that we got that out, I'm going to turn it back over to the lovely Teal.
Okay, so once you've made your decision as to what type of business entity you want to do, next is the paperwork. You have got to file all the necessary paperwork.
Yes.
With whichever government office in your country oversees such matters.
Yes.
Now, for us here in Texas, you have to file with the Secretary of the State of Texas. And you also have to file with the IRS.
Right.
Or if you're in another country, whatever tax department your country has.
Right.
But you do have to make sure you file in both those places.
Yes.
This is you're going to be creating your legal business entity.
Right.
And it will be assigned a functional tax ID, such as the EIN in the U.S.
Right, the infamous EIN, as they like to call it.
The EIN, yeah.
But yes, what happens is when you're done with that paperwork, regardless of what your country, because each country is going to do it a little differently, you're going to get that little ID, and that ID shows that your company actually exists.
It exists.
As far as your government is concerned.
Yes. It is. You're okay to operate business. You're okay to operate in the country, in the state, and you have tax liability. So it's all good.
And here in the U.S., we get the certificate of formation.
Yes.
By the State Department. So basically, the two together show that you're an entity, it exists, and the government can and will tax you, and you can receive revenue, taxable revenue. It basically is, if I'm not mistaken, the whole idea that it's a quote-unquote person. I'm using air quotes.
Right, air quotes.
It's an entity that exists outside of you and your partners. I know that sounds maybe a little confusing. It confused me at first, but countries like to see companies as a separate from their owners when it comes to legal and tax purposes. So you have to go through all that rigmarole so that that'll happen. You can't just say we're a business.
No, you can't.
You can't just go on and say, my name is Jim, and I'm the president of Awesome Games Studios. No, you actually have to go through the steps. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're just talking air.
So, yeah. Now, I do want to say that during this time of forming your business, you really want to consider obtaining some form of counsel.
Yes. To
help you with the legal side of your business. Counsel to advise you on where to go, what forms to fill out. Contract review, very important.
So I know we're about to mention the legal counsel side. Isn't it generally that the groups that handle formation aren't always the same that do counsel once the entity is created? They're usually two separate things, maybe owned by the same umbrella, like LegalZoom and what's the one we use?
Legal Shield.
Right, so we use LegalZoom to form Studio Blue. But Legal Shield is our quote-unquote counsel to help us with things like contract negotiation and stuff.
Yeah. Make sure you're hiring the right people.
Right. But you want to make sure you do that. Okay. Yeah. Make sure on the same page. Cool.
So, yeah, legal stuff, very, very important. Get that in place.
Yeah.
And, I almost forgot about this, but yeah, once you get yourself, once you formed your business, you want to think about insurance.
Oh, yes.
Like even if you're operating outside your house, you need some kind of liability insurance. If you're, of course, outside your house, renting or leasing a building or a workspace, then you're going to want some kind of property insurance. Because, like, what if there's a fire and your servers all burn up? Yeah, you're going to need some insurance. And, of course, liability insurance, you're going to want that.
Absolutely. For extra layers of liability in case someone sues you, or sues your business.
Right.
Quick question here. I know the answer, of course, asking the question I know the answer to. If you have a home and you're operating your business out of your home like we do, is it enough to rely on homeowners insurance, or do you want to get that extra insurance?
You want to get the extra insurance.
Yeah.
Because your business is considered a separate entity from your residence. So you need something in place to protect your business assets.
Makes sense. So while your home computer that you play your video games on may be covered under your homeowner's insurance or your renter's insurance, the rig you use to stream your awesome studio or whatever you're using to create your game is not.
That's not. It is part of your business.
Right.
So, you want to have that.
And you don't want to fall into the trap of trying to claim, if something happens, a business-related asset under personal insurance.
No, you got to keep everything separate.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep hammering that point home throughout this whole podcast.
Yes.
Is keep it separate.
Keep it
separated. Your business is separate from your personal.
Yes.
Always.
Okay.
As I said, you do want to have some kind of counsel just to help you navigate some of this legal stuff. Because, when we started out, we weren't aware of all the forms we needed to fill out.
No.
And some of it took us by surprise. We're like, there's a form for this? Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a form.
it's the United States tax law. There's a form for everything.
Yeah.
All right.
So, that and the insurance. So, you want to take care of the legal aspect.
Right, we do want to take care of the legal aspect
first and foremost,
really.
before anything else, because you talk about the other stuff, the money and the people. Well, you've got to have the actual business structure set up.
Yeah, you
do first too. Before you do anything else. So yes, legal.
So having said that, once you're done with the legal side of setting up your business, where do we go then?
Okay, now financial. The financial side.
Money.
Okay, so money. Yes, you need money to operate. So the very first thing you're going to do.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Is you got to set up your business bank account.
Yes.
Let me say that again for the folks in the back. Set up a business bank account.
And you can't have a business bank account unless you have a legal business entity.
So you see where we're going with this, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Having your business bank account is going to allow you to track all of your transactions that's related to your business. Doing all this is going to make it easier for you to report to your country's tax department, in our case, the IRS.
And if there's anything that anyone living in the United States knows, do not mess with the IRS. They can and will hammer you down.
Yeah.
Give the government what it's owed.
So, we highly, highly recommend that you never run your business finances out of your personal bank account.
Right. Or something like a business PayPal, because you don't want to run your company out of it. You can have a business PayPal.
Absolutely, you want a business PayPal, but you're not going to run your operations out of your PayPal account.
You don't want your PayPal to be your bank. It is not a bank.
It's not meant to be a bank.
It's not meant to be a bank.
No matter what the PayPal marketing department says, they are not considered a bank.
They are not a bank.
Okay.
So I guess once you get that business PayPal. See,
business bank account.
Thank you, my love.
Yes.
Once you get that business bank account set up, you're going to want to drop all your startup funding right into it.
All of it.
It
doesn't matter where the source is, whether it's a check or electronic transaction or whatever. All that money, all that startup funding goes into your business bank account.
And it doesn't matter, guys, for those of you who are worried, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a massive sum. You can open up a business bank account for as little as like $100, $50, depending on the bank. You just want to put it in there. Now, understand that if your bank account has a bare minimum and keeps it, the bank's not going to consider you very serious. Banks do pay attention to things.
They do.
Investors and people who offer credit, they all pay attention. So, and again, we're not financial analysts, but in our experience, if it's $100 to open up a business bank account, drop in $200.
Yeah.
Just a little more. Show that you're serious.
Yeah.
Just show you're serious.
The perception is real.
Yes.
In the financial industry. So put as much money as you can that you're getting into that, all of it.
And Teal mentioned startup capital, which is really important. If you can put together, so let's say you're going to create your game studio to make your dream game that you're going to sell on Steam. If you can scrape together $1,000 to start off and put it in that account, you have a step ahead of the person who just drops in the $50 needed to open the account.
Yeah.
You are ahead of them. So, yeah.
So that's opening up that account and putting as much money as you can initially into it is going to help you with the next step, which the next step is obtaining a business credit card or a line of credit.
Oh, yes.
You need this because, well, first of all, a business credit card is useful for large purchases.
Oh, yes.
And a business credit card, as well as a line of credit, is the best way to establish the creditworthiness of your business for future lending purposes. Guys, at some point, you're going to want to take out a loan.
It is.
At some point, you're going to be asking people for money.
Yes, it is. It is a guarantee. I got to say this. Business credit is one of the most overlooked and important things that a business owner needs to consider. Most people, it seems counterintuitive. I get it. People go, well, we don't want a credit card because then we go into debt. We don't want a line of credit because then we go into debt. First off, we're going to disabuse you of that notion.
Yeah.
You're going to be in debt. Second, if you don't establish a line of credit, if you don't have a way that says my business is good for X amount of money, it's doomed to fail. Your business, whether it's a game studio or not, cannot survive in the long term without some ability to borrow.
Yeah.
It seems counterintuitive to take out a credit card as soon as possible, but do it.
Yes, because you've got to establish your credit worthiness.
Yeah. So how do you do that? Well, again, we're not credit advisors, but this is something we found that works for us.
Yeah.
Use your business credit card to make some small recurring purchases. Just a little bit, not a lot. Let's say that you have a limit of $1,000 on the card.
Right.
Spend it on, use your credit card for about $200 a month. Just something like that. And then pay off that minimum just to keep it from bloating.
Right.
And that's how you establish revolving credit.
Yep.
Now, again, we're not credit advisors. It might be different in your country. It might be different in your particular instance, but it's just showing that you can make a payment every month continuously, that you are, and I'm using air quotes again, good for it.
Right. And it also establishes your financial intelligence in that you have a good debt to equity ratio.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
When lenders are looking at you or investors are looking, they want to see, do you have a good solid debt to equity ratio?
Are you someone they can trust giving you $1,000, $10,000, $100,000? And there you go. So, again, to the people in the back, this is important. You may think, well, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to drop my $100 here for assets when I need them, and I'll drop $50 to get a piece of custom code. For a hobbyist, that's fine. That's totally fine. But if you want to make this into a business, you got to think well beyond that. And I know our world operates on some screwed up credit laws that sometimes make no sense.
No kidding.
But you got to navigate it if you want to succeed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, and always make sure if in doubt, seek advice.
Yes.
Seek in the case of credit.
Yes.
Seek credit counseling advice, whatever.
Yeah, it depends on where you're at.
Yeah. So let's move on from the financial and move right into accounting. Okay. Accounting is simply tracking your transaction, the movement of your funds in and out of your account.
So basically, we started with forming it, making it legal. Then we started with funding it, putting money in it, and now we're going into setting up the ability to track said funds.
Exactly.
All right.
So the first thing you want to do is you want to purchase a bookkeeping program, some kind of software for bookkeeping, and you set it up right away.
Yes.
Don't just buy it and then let it sit on your desk and gather dust. Oh, it looks pretty, and put paper on it. No, you need to set it up and start tracking your money immediately.
So what do we recommend? Again, we are just making recommendations on personal, but what do we use? What do we recommend?
Well, there's no shortage of accounting software out there, but I personally recommend QuickBooks Small Business.
I think that's what we chose, right?
It's easy. Yeah, it's easy to set up, easy to use, and they have a really good support team.
There you go.
So if I have questions, I can just give them a call.
Yeah. There you go. So, hey, QuickBooks, if you want to go ahead and sponsor us, we'll give you a plug.
But honestly, there's lots of different stuff out there.
Yeah.
And just pick one that works best for you.
Exactly.
Next, keep all your receipts for every purchase. Keep all your paperwork related to your business.
I'm going to go ahead and shout that again. Keep all your receipts. Keep all your receipts. My God, keep every single receipt.
And all the paperwork that's related to your business, whether it's legal, financial, whatever. Keep it all in your files. This not only helps you to keep organized, but it will cover your butt in case you get audited.
Ooh.
And let me tell you, you can get audited for any reason, for anything.
Yes. The dreaded IRS audit that everyone fears. Now, the IRS is not likely to go after a small game studio in the middle of Timbuktu unless it has a reason to, but the IRS has the ability to go after anyone and audit them at any time.
Now, that's just one type of audit.
Correct.
Now, it's always a good idea, especially if you've been going for a while, to have an annual audit by an accounting firm, just to audit your books and make sure everything is where it should be, and then they can close your books for you. Yeah. That's all part of the bookkeeping accounting process, and I'm not going to go into that too deeply, but the IRS is not the only people to audit. You can always contract for an audit. And I do recommend once you've been going for a little while, a couple of years, go ahead and contract with an accounting firm to audit, to make sure everything is in place.
Absolutely, 100%.
It's just helpful.
Yeah.
So moving on from accounting, because I know accounting is like
so exciting.
It's its own thing. The next thing is human resources.
Oh, yes.
So, Steele, take it away there. Okay. Human resources.
All right. So the big one is, and this everyone's been waiting for it, once you have all of this in place, start assembling your game development team. Now, we've already addressed this in previous podcasts. We're not going to go in depth, but to summarize, learn how to interview and vet, learn how to find the right people, protect your intellectual property. I should have said that first. Protect your IP first.
Protect your IP.
Then start vetting and interviewing and bringing on your game dev staff.
Yeah.
Because now, did you notice that we had a whole bunch of bullshit before I even talked about finding people to help create your game?
Absolutely.
So here's a show of hands from the people in the audience. How many of you all have started doing the step that I just mentioned, making your game dev team? Who starts doing that first? Bet you most of y'all.
Bet you most of them.
That is a common mistake everyone makes. If you're going to do this as a business, not as a hobbyist, not as a bunch of friends, not as like, hey, I'm going to make my dream game that's going to be put on Steam, and if it succeeds, I don't care. Let me go ahead and drag in some people to help. We're not talking about that.
No.
We're talking about if you're doing this as a source of income, you don't start putting your game dev team together until you have all of your ducks in a row and all your framework in place.
Yeah, until your business is actually established as a legal entity.
Exactly. So that's pretty much the high points. We can
and
move
has
on.
Startup capital.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. You have to be able to have money if you're going to pay people, right?
Yeah.
All right. So
yeah, game dev team. But that's not the only people you need to be bringing on board.
Right.
You need to hire people that will assist you with the operations side of your business, such as marketing, social media, bookkeeping.
Yes.
So you want to hire people either as employees or contractors. We'll get into that in a bit. To do these, definitely you want to hire some sort of bookkeeper or accountant.
Oh yes.
Okay. Unless you're willing to do all this yourself.
Right.
Let's let somebody else do it.
Right.
Given the huge cost of acquiring an actual CPA, it's perfectly acceptable to contract with an online accounting service, such as maybe bookkeeper.com or Bench.
Yeah.
Most online services will do your bookkeeping. They'll also do tax prep and payroll. You definitely want to consider somebody that can do all three.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Because honestly, you're going to be dipping into all three pools: bookkeeping, tax prep, payroll, all that.
Yeah.
So if you can find a one-stop shop, perfect. Because then that person or that service will have everything they need right there to make all the transactions happen.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's very important that you have an accountant, accounting service, a bookkeeper to track the monies.
To track the monies and to make sure that you stay above the board.
Yep. Make sure everything gets paid and received properly, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Now you're also going to, along with this, hiring an accountant, make sure that someone in your organization or maybe even yourself learns how to do accounts payable and receivable. Not every online service will handle that sort of thing, AR and AP. But what we mean by that is taking in the monies and making deposits to the bank or paying the bills.
Got it.
Actually paying the bills. Okay. Not every service will do that. Somebody has to pay the bills. Somebody has to make sure your studio is getting paid.
And to kind of build off of what we said earlier, this is almost assuredly going to fall on your shoulders. It really is.
Yeah.
Because you're the business owner, you're the primary owner, it's going to fall on your business. And remember what we said earlier. In a small business, especially a startup, like a small studio, everyone's going to be wearing multiple hats. So let's say it's you and two other people, a three-way partnership. It could be that you handle accounts receivable and accounts payable, and one of the other people actually is the one who operates the QuickBooks, the accounting software, and interfaces with the accounting firm that you've contracted. And then the third one handles the HR hiring and firing.
Correct.
There's nothing wrong with that. And of course, you three are also game developers. That's fine. That's fine. Business owners for startup businesses often find themselves doing, again, the metric butt ton of work.
Now, a couple of things I want to point out to you. Okay. First of all, whoever is writing the checks, if it's not you, then make sure that it's a close and trusted partner.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Man, oh, man.
Oh, boy, you can...
you don't want to be taken to the cleaners on that.
No.
Second, and I can't stress this enough, you need to separate your bookkeeper from the person who writes the checks.
Oh, yes.
Do not have your bookkeeper be the one to write the checks.
No.
You know where this is going.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, if you're a three-person operation, then somebody handles the bookkeeping and somebody else handles actually writing the checks, depositing the money.
Now, we're not going to say who does who.
No.
But we're not going to say who does what. But we do that exact same thing. We separate that here.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though, we trust each other, it's still, when there's money involved, trust has a funny way of flying out the window. And it's just it's good sense.
Yes, it is. You might even want to consider when you open up your business bank account, with your partners, that you get an account where you have to have a counter signature. So any check that's written has to have 2 signatures on it, or it's not honored.
And you can put it in things like your articles of formation when you create your LLC, or incorporation in the case of a corporation, where any amount below a certain amount doesn't require counter signatures, but anyone above a certain amount does. So let's say you have a petty cash fund.
Right.
Which I know we're going a little bit off topic here, but you have, like, let's say anything under 100. You just do the petty cash fund, you report it in so that the bookkeeper knows what to report.
Right.
But it's to go buy, like, pens or some shit.
Exactly.
That you don't, because you don't want to get everyone who's in charge of the company involved in every single purchase.
No.
But if you're going to go out and buy a new computer for one of your devs or one of your artists, then yes, everyone gets involved. But that's well beyond the scope of things, but it's to keep in mind you can build in those little structures, those little caveats to keep stopping your operations to a grinding halt.
Yeah.
Just to go buy pens. All right.
So also under human resources, moving on, you want to decide on your organization structure.
Yes.
Also known as your management levels. Okay. Who's on top, who's underneath them, who reports to those, all the way down to your rank and file.
Who's on the bottom rung, and then who's on the next to bottom rung.
I do want to point out, don't overdo it.
Don't. We're going to talk about that later. It can be overdone.
Yeah. But yeah, you do want to have some kind of organization structure so that it's a reporting structure. Who makes decisions at what level, and where does the buck stop?
Which is an important thing to note. Even if it's a 2-way, 3-way partnership, at some point the buck has to stop at a single person.
Yep.
And that person has to be the person to go, okay, if all shit fails, I'm the one who's going to answer and figure out how to fix it.
Exactly.
And again, that's just how it is. If you're a true 50-50 partnership, then it's both of you. And you can bear the brunt of responsibility together.
Okay. Also, part of HR is bringing on people.
Yeah.
Figure out how you're going to bring on your workers, other than yourself and your partners.
Right.
If you're hiring W-2 employees, do you offer benefits?
You should.
Such as health insurance or the vacations or PTO. I mean, you've got to have some kind of benefits.
Right. Why would someone want to be a W-2 employee and have part of their paycheck taken out if they're not going to get something in return? Because remember, in most, I know it is here in the U.S. and in most countries, if you're a quote-unquote employee, you pay a portion of the taxes to the government for them.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
And what's the other one?
Okay, so the other one is a 1099 contractor. If you're going to hire 1099 contractors, and guys, there's a difference.
Yes.
Big difference between a W-2 and a 1099.
Huge.
Then you got to make sure that those legal contracts are stored safely. Man, those contracts that you give to the contractors that they sign and return to you are so important.
Wow.
That governs the relationship between your business and that contractor.
And please keep in mind, now, again, we're using W-2 and 1099 because that's the United States.
Right.
Every country is going to be different, but I also want to say this. Every country, every province, every state, everyone has different labor laws. Some of them, like here in the United States, have things called at-will.
Yes.
Even a W-2 employee is like in Texas. Texas is an at-will state. That means that even a W-2 employee can be terminated at any time for any reason. But the second side of that protection is a W-2 employee or a contractor can walk away at any time
for any reason. Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, there's the dreaded thing, and I'm not going to get into the politics of it, where people are like, well, I have no job security, et cetera, et cetera. I understand that. But though on the flip side, there are places where, regardless, you are never bound to finish if you feel whatever.
Right.
That at will may circumvent your contract. So you want to look at your contract, talk to your legal counsel, and find, what can I do to protect my business? Just as if you were going to accept a contract with a studio, what can I do to protect myself? That goes into get legal counsel.
Legal counsel.
So much importance. So apologies for going off on that tangent, Teal, but a lot of people just think just because I have a contract, I'm protected. You need to look contracts versus laws versus everything, and that's where you get your legal expert to come in.
Guys, you're not going to know how to do all this.
No. So other people
get advice.
Go to school and make a metric butt ton of money to do that shit for you.
Yeah. So, yeah. That pretty much, that was a pretty meaty topic of setting up your studio. But there's a lot that goes into it.
Truly.
And, if you feel overwhelmed, no worries.
Yeah.
Because there's resources online that take you step by step on how to form your business.
Yes. And then how to protect yourself, how to protect your employee, because only an ass doesn't protect the people working for them.
Yeah.
And, you know, as long as everyone has that business relationship where everyone's protected and everyone feels safe, the business will flourish.
Yeah.
Businesses that create an environment where no one feels that their source of income is safe, whether they be on top or at the bottom, they tend to not do as well.
They're going to do well. Mm-mm.
So let's move on.
Okay, so moving on to operating your studio. This is your day-to-day operations. Steele, why don't you talk about the game development operation?
All right, so this is where you manage the development of your studio's games, and we have gone over this in depth several times.
Why don't you just give us the high points?
Yeah, because this has pretty much been the focus of Season 1 of DLC Not Included, and it's also a lot of what Studio Blue does in general. But basically, come up with a plan for your game, start to finish, from proof of concept all the way to gold and post-release. Follow that plan. Bring on the right people at the right time and make sure you've vetted them. So if you need artists, make sure the artists are available from the moment they're needed to the moment they're no longer needed, which may not be when you go gold. You may need to have an artist afterwards in case you need to fix an asset problem.
Exactly.
You're most assuredly going to need at least one, if not a few programmers after gold.
Yep.
To fix to patch.
Yeah, to patch.
Follow best practices. Follow the game development best practices that Studio Blue and whomever have taught you over the years. Make sure your product follows a relatively, salient schedule where you're just fluid enough that you can deal with mess ups,
right?
But also so that it's not going from 2 years to 12 years. You do not do the development hell.
No.
Follow those clearly, because even though we've given you all of these advice, and we're going to give you a lot more advice on how to run the business end of your studio, if your game fails, if your game doesn't go out the door, if you can't ship a gold release, you're done. It doesn't matter. So make sure that when you're following all of this advice, that you are developing the game properly and distributing it properly on a schedule that your studio can survive on.
Yeah.
All right. Boom. Over to you, Teal.
Okay. So let's get into the actual operating the studio. Let's start about with accounting operations. Okay. You have to account for the monies.
Oh, yes.
So when you receive funds from any source, make sure that it ends up in your business bank account. Please. Link every online source, whether it's PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. Link that to your business bank account.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes.
I can't stress enough how important it is that your business bank account is the repository for receiving and dispersing funds for your business. You want to keep records of all those transactions, the incoming transactions especially. Bank statements are your friend.
They really are.
Guys, always print up or save to PDF somewhere those bank statements that you get every month. And not just from your business bank, But statements from all of your online sources. PayPal has statements. Venmo has statements. They all have statements.
Everyone has statements. Keep
those statements and have your accountant or bookkeeper reconcile those statements every month.
Absolutely. Every single month. Now, just so that we don't get too swamped in, because that's a lot of stuff Teal just said.
Yeah, I just went blah.
It's okay. It's okay. To give the short version of it, to give the summary of that is you need to make sure that when your money comes in and your money goes out and all the money that goes and does, basically the operating costs, whether it be paying people or whatever, you need to make sure that's tracked. And that is regardless of where it's coming in from.
Yeah.
Most successful, but no, let me go. All successful have multiple sources of income coming from multiple places. You may have money coming in from PayPal. You may have money coming in from direct bank transfers. You may have money coming in from Steam. You're going to have all these different places that your money is coming in. And you're going to want to have to track every single bit of it. And as she says, reconcile.
Yeah.
The petty cash fund, someone has to dip into $50 into your PayPal account using your PayPal card because that's all they had when they needed to go buy those important pens.
Right.
That has to be reconciled. You can't not account for every dime.
Yeah. So this, keep a paper trail.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying is you need a paper trail because you, as the business owner, you need to know how much you have coming in and where it's coming from.
Yes.
On the flip side, keep records of all your disbursements.
Absolutely.
Everything, and I mean this, everything has to come from either your business bank account or from an online source that is linked to your business bank account, such as PayPal.
Right.
Whatever the source, it has to issue statements that you can reconcile within when you bookkeep.
Yeah, so for example, if you have a business PayPal, which there's no reason why you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Especially if you're let's say you're streaming online and it streams it, and you accept donations and stuff like that. That should go to your business PayPal, not your personal. Once you create a business, nothing should go into your personal anything. It all goes into your business, whatever.
Yeah.
PayPal, etc.
So these statements, these bank statements that I've been talking about, that's also going to contain all your disbursements, everything you paid out, whether it's a check or an online or EFT, it doesn't matter. It's going to be on that statement.
Right. I just realized I'm talking about taking in money and you need to be putting out money. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's all, in and out.
It is. It is all in and out. So, but the big thing that I want to reiterate that Teal says is it has to somehow be linked back to your bank account and it has to have some form of transaction log.
Yeah.
You have to be able to follow it. I will not use anything for Studio Blue. We will not use anything for Studio Blue if we cannot track it.
Yeah.
Because that is scary.
You don't want to go there.
Don't want to go there.
So, always track your money. And and this last point, please, pay your bills on time.
Yes.
I don't know of any other way to put this.
Oh.
Pay your bills on time. When you get bills come in, and you will, pay them. Have the person writing a check write the bloody check and send it off. Just using that as an example because people don't always use business checks, but do it.
Yeah.
Pay the bill.
If your business is strapped for cash and you have nothing on your business credit card, pay it with the credit card. It makes sure, of course, you don't bloat too much. Follow those credit best practices we kind of hinted at. But is it better to have a little bit of revolving credit that you have to resolve later, as opposed to getting known as a late payer for something?
Oh, you don't want to do that.
No one likes a debtor. You don't want to be known as the person who doesn't pay your bills.
Yeah,
it will ruin you. Now, a lot of the stuff here, a lot of that how-to, which really is beyond the scope. There's a lot of tutorials on things like bookkeeping, building credit, etc. A lot of that's out there.
Yeah, the how-to is out there. We're just telling you what you need to be focusing on and doing. Right.
Businesses cannot survive without tracking its money flow, so do it in a way that works for you, but make sure you and your partners do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's move on to HR operations.
Yes, indeed.
People and payroll and stuff like that. So first of all, let's talk about payroll.
Payroll.
So you and your partners you want to get paid.
Oh, yes.
You want to pay yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is paying yourself is very different than paying an employee.
Oh, yes.
You will be paid as an owner or partner.
Mm-hmm.
How you get paid in that way depends on the type of company structure you've created.
Yes. And the examples we're going to give are for the U.S. only, correct?
Yes, okay. Only for the U.S. because that's we're based out of the U.S. and that's what I'm most familiar with.
Right, but check your country's laws on how what we're about to say works for your country.
Okay, so this is under the umbrella of paying yourself and your business partners.
Correct.
If you're an LLC, you're going to be paid a percentage of the profits.
Mm-hmm.
After everything else is paid for that month.
Right.
So if your LLC ends up with $100 as your profit after you've accounted for revenue and expenses, then that's what you get paid.
Yeah. So
either you get the $100 if you're a sole proprietorship, or your partners, it's split up according to the percentage.
Right. If you're a three-way partnership like 33, 33, 34, you get $34 and everyone else gets $33. It's if it was a two-way split.
Yeah.
$100 is the profit. You
get $50 and your partner gets $50.
Yeah.
So that's how that works.
Right.
Please understand that it's on profits.
Yes.
Okay. Profit is the result of revenues minus the expenses.
And we need to stress that expenses include paying everyone else.
Yeah. Payroll is an expense.
Right.
It comes under expenses.
As an LLC owner, do not make a dime until everything, all the bills have been paid, all the upkeep's been paid, subscriptions, and all of the contractors/employees working for you have been paid.
That's right.
When everyone else gets the monies, the LLC owners/partners then get paid.
Exactly.
So is it a potential to be exceedingly profitable? Yes.
Is it potential that you're always going to be broke in that regard? Well, sure.
That's the cost of starting a business.
That's the cost of starting up a business.
Yes, indeed.
Now, that's for LLCs. Now, if you are formed a corporation,
right,
you're paid as a W-2 employee, and you're going to receive a salary.
Yes.
You can set your salary, and yes, you can legally change it, but you are not given a cut of the profits.
Right. Not normally. You'd have to have a profit sharing clause in your contract.
Exactly.
Right.
No, you're going to be paid a salary on your income statement. It's going to say salary expense.
Right.
That's where your money is.
So a positive to this is, let's say your salary is, $2,000 a month. I know that's not how it works, but we're going to say it's $2,000 a month. Mm-hmm. You're going to get paid that regardless of whether or not the studio breaks even. The negative side is your studio can go into debt, praying you and everybody else.
Yep.
So again, it's on one side, LLCs are better for certain things. On the other side, corporations are better. You got to decide as the business owner what is best for you.
And lastly, when we're talking about, the monies, the profits,
right,
guys, it's a very good idea for you to always funnel some money back into your studio.
Oh yes, especially if you're an LLC owner, especially then.
On the balance sheet, this is called owner's equity.
Yes.
You want to funnel money back into that.
Oh yes. It is a very good idea. Not only does it give your business some padding, but it's an investment. You're literally investing in your own studio.
Yep.
And at that point, your studio's chances of success increase. A lot of people I don't think we have this on the pitfalls we talk about later, but a lot of business owners make the mistake of immediately just taking the profits and spending it on whatever. That is a
Please don't do that.
Terrible idea.
No.
You are going to fail.
As with everything, you need to be very methodical and organized about what you do with your profits.
Yes.
Okay. We talked about paying yourself. Let's talk about paying everyone else.
Woo. It's time to get paid.
So you're either going to pay your people as employees, and that's W-2 in the United States.
Right.
Or you'll pay them as contractors, independent contractors, and that's covered by the 1099.
Right.
From the IRS.
Yes.
If they are employees, You also need to take out taxes and provide benefits of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you check your country's laws on what you need to provide to employees and contractors. And guys, don't get it mixed up.
Don't.
An employee is not a contractor.
And
a contractor is not an employee.
100% deal. 100%. Can we go ahead and mention this?
Please.
Okay. So, and we've seen this firsthand and secondhand. It may be tempting to just bring everyone on as a contractor to avoid all the extra complications.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it. There are clear laws in most countries. We know they're here in the United States, and in every state they're a little different as far as the harshness and the penalties.
But there are clear laws stopping that.
Yeah, if there are laws that say at a certain point, if you require X and Y of a person, they're not a contractor, they're an employee, regardless of what you say they were when you brought them on.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of give a clear indicator. This is a very good litmus test that will keep you from crossing the line in most situations. If the person who is helping you with your game or games is someone who's going to be doing the same long-term style tasks, plus extra over multiple projects, they really should be an employee.
Yeah.
So if you have an art director and you call them your art director and they're going to make art for game 1, game 2, game 3, and they're directing the art and all the other artists for your game and all your games, and you're treating them as a contractor, you are opening yourself up to problems.
Because they're actually an employee.
They're actually an employee. You need to bring them on as an employee and treat them as such, which means, at least in the U.S., you pay a portion of their taxes.
Yep.
And you give them some measure
some
of
sort of
benefits.
benefit.
Yes.
Yeah. Also under HR,
Mm-hmm.
make sure you have a clear record of your studio's policies,
Mm-hmm.
such as acceptable codes of conduct, attendance, reporting, etc.
Yes.
It's pretty easy to, and they have tutorials online, to make a handbook
Mm-hmm.
for your employees
Mm-hmm.
that clearly explains what is and is not acceptable in your company.
Yes.
You also want to have the policies in there
Oh, yes.
and procedures.
Yes.
You know, what will happen if X happens?
Right.
What's the process? What is process for remediation if somebody,
Mm-hmm.
you know, let's, for example, gets harassed?
Mm-hmm.
What's your process for dealing with that?
Right.
So all policies, procedures, etc., they're put into that handbook.
Mm-hmm.
Even your 1099 contractors need to understand what you will and will not tolerate before they work for you.
Now,
So that will be spelled out in their contract.
Now we have, we need to bring this up. A lot of times, especially when you do fully things online, you get someone in your community you're going to bring them on as a contractor, which we talked about that in a previous podcast,
Mm-hmm.
tapping into the community, the pros and cons of that. And they're going to have an attitude of, well, I'm just doing art for your game. I can do what I want. And this is it. If you tell them ahead of time what I will and will not tolerate while you are working for me, they have no recourse if they break a rule and you go, you know what? I'm paying you for the work you've done. We're done. We're out.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, lawyers and such, you want to make sure you have legal counsel. You don't want to get known for stiffing people. You don't want to get known as that guy who doesn't pay. But you need to be as upfront as humanly possible with what you will allow and what you will not tolerate, I should say, not allow. Tolerate and not tolerate.
That's why it's good to have to draw up a pretty solid contract with each of your 1099 contractors that spell this out, because that's your evidence. That's your basis for operating.
And if you have that handbook, then no one can say, I didn't know that was not acceptable according to whatevs. Because you can literally say, here's a handbook I gave you. The onus is on you to read it.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't have to be this long, thick,
and that's for an employee,
thing.
But for a contractor, I can't say this enough. You've got to put these things in the contract that they sign.
Yes. In the contract, it'll say, you were given a copy of the handbook. You're going to read it. I've acknowledged that I've read it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, that way it's about protecting yourself. And also, we should probably talk about hiring and firing.
Yeah, let's go into that briefly.
Okay.
Yeah. So also under HR is the bringing on people and letting go of people.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you have a process in place,
Mm-hmm.
written policy on acceptable hiring practices, and grounds for termination.
Yeah. What you don't want to do is have that headache of a lawsuit for improper termination of employment or improper termination of a contract.
Yeah.
Check your country's laws, craft your policies based on them. So again, going back to communities, if you get the reputation of being that guy who stiffs the people doing work for them, it's going to work against you. But if you have been exceedingly upfront with, this is my policies, this is exactly what I will and will not allow, here's how we handle things for this studio, and if you bring on someone from the community and they walk all over it, and you have logs, keep logs of conversations.
Yes, always keep logs of everything.
And you can show the rest of the community, here's our policy, which we made this person aware of. This person broke our policies multiple times. Here's the evidence of that. I'm letting them go. I'm paying them for what they did, and then I'm out.
Yeah.
Then at that point, there's still going to be haters. There's still going to be people who think you're a terrible person, but most people are going to go, well, you told this person and they didn't listen and you let them go. It's all about covering your butt.
Yeah. CYA.
Yep. And also, if you're working in a professional environment for a business here in the U.S., I know people love to throw lawsuits. So all that stuff.
Yeah. Anybody can sue you anytime for anything.
Yes.
That's just,
So to kind of wrap that up before moving on, the more you put in place that pre-knowledge, it gives people pre-knowledge of what is and is not okay.
Yeah.
And how you're going to handle bringing them on and letting them go, the less of a chance that any lawsuit or smear campaign that they attempt is going to be, it's going to most likely fail.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
So, there it is.
All right.
So I think I've pretty much covered the big bases of operating your studio.
I think so.
Why don't we get into some pitfalls? Because I know folks want to know, okay, so I do all this. What are my chances of stepping into a hole?
Right. Now, we've mentioned a bunch of potential pitfalls throughout this podcast.
Yeah.
However, there's a couple that, when we were designing this, that I kind of put down that are things that I notice companies doing, especially startup game studios. Okay. And I've seen this in our community, and I've seen this IRL offline.
Ah, okay.
First off, don't have too many chiefs.
Oh lordy, no, don't have too many chiefs.
If your management layer is bigger than your worker layer, that's a problem.
You're doing it wrong.
You are doing it wrong. Your business is not going to be okay. It's going to fail hard. If you're throwing out VP titles to everyone who wants in on your big idea, it's going to break. It's going to blow up. Don't do it. Don't.
Oh my God.
I have actually had people say, well, I'm going to bring you on for this project and I'm going to make you the VP of blank. And I'm like, okay, well, who do we have working for us? Oh, well, we have the VP over here of this and the VP of this over here and the VP of this over there. Okay, so who's wrong? Well, we have this one person over here and this person over there. Okay, so you got like 5 people who have VP titles and 2 actual guys driving the truck. It's going to fail.
Nope.
It's going to straight up fail. Don't do that.
We'll pass, Haas. Thank you.
It opens you up for tremendous issues because you're also giving someone else power. I'm the president of this company, and over here is my VP of marketing, over there is my VP of operations, there's my VP creative director, and that schnook over there is a VP of sales. I mean, you got these 4 people who basically at this point say, well, I'm a vice president of your company, and people go on power trips real fucking fast.
Yeah.
Real fast.
Yeah.
So really, to kind of bring it back, start with yourself and your founding partners with the boss flag ticked.
Yes.
Only you guys.
Only you guys.
Only you guys. Everyone else reports underneath you to some extent. And consider if it's like a 3-way partnership, not a 2-way equal split, that's the only exception, but a 3-way partnership, consider having one of you be the one on top and the other 2 answering to them. You could be the person with the 34%. Consider that.
Sure. It's good to consider.
Right, because if there is a single person where, quote unquote, that buck stops, then the chance of management level abuse, which can destroy a studio, happening.
Yeah.
Keeps it from happening.
On the same token, I want to point this out. So you're the boss.
You're the boss.
Don't ride the wave of being the boss.
I'm the boss.
Okay, I'm the boss, especially in the beginning.
Yes.
You're not the big cheese.
You're not.
Don't go around calling yourself the CEO of something. Because guys, until your studio is actually creating something successful games, unless you've actually made bank on successfully selling games, You're just the one that pays the bills. You're just the dude.
You're just the dude. We've actually seen this in some of the communities we've been in. People going, I'm the CEO of blank studio, and okay, well, what is your studio created? Well, we're creating this game right here. Okay, don't walk around talking about, flaunting around like you're the CEO who smokes cigars. You don't, oh, my beeper's on silent right now because I'm out at the movies with my lady. Please talk to my secretary. Dude, until you're bringing in income, you ain't shit.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Once you're making money and your studio's producing games, and I can see that shit on Steam and, give you a review because your game is open to the public, you ain't shit. So we say that because a lot of people will walk around thinking they are the bomb just because they put forth articles of incorporation or formation. That does not make you successful. That does not make you a businessman. That just makes you a business owner.
Yeah.
You got to put in the work. Speaking of which,
yes, you should be the hardest working person in your studio.
100%.
Mr. Owner.
Yes.
If someone else is putting in more hours and effort than you are, you're doing it wrong. You're not the guy in charge.
You are not. You should be putting in the most hours. What is it that we usually hear? I think it's the successful entrepreneurs are putting in 60 to 70 hours weeks at first. I mean, it's a massive amount.
It's a massive amount of hours.
But that is what it takes to become successful with a small business and a small studio.
Yeah.
And a sidebar to the sidebar, this is not just deving.
No, it's not.
If you want to be the owner of a game studio, part of that's deving your game, part of it's running your business.
Yes.
And you've got to balance between the two. It is not easy, but damn is it rewarding when it works.
And speaking of balancing, another pitfall is obsessively worrying about being in the red. Guys, you're always going to be in the red for the first 2 or 3 years of legal operations.
Yes.
Especially if you're spending your money properly to become successful.
You are going to operate in the red.
Sure.
One more time for the people in the back. You're going to be operating in the red for a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
Until you're selling an actual product.
Your game.
Which is your game. You're going to be putting out more money than you're taking in.
Yeah, 100%.
The money that you receive before you start sales, that's just that's capital. That's capital.
Yeah, it's funding.
That is funding. That's capital in order to get this product out there.
Yes.
That's what that is.
There's a massive misconception among people who have never owned a business, have never run a business, or just don't know what they're doing. It's a huge misconception that businesses have to turn a profit immediately. That could not be further from the truth.
No, it's not real.
You have to pay for people. You have to pay for things. That's where your startup capital, that's where your lines of credit, those credit cards, that's where all that BS comes into play.
Yep.
You can start with $1,000 and turn it into $1 million business. You just have to be smart. You have to spend intelligently.
Yes.
You have to operate intelligently. You have to consider each part and not just go, hey, I feel like deving today. Hey, I don't feel like deving today. That's not going to work for a business owner, for somebody running a studio. Again, if you're a hobbyist, disregard everything we just said over the past hour. Have fun making your game.
Yeah.
But if you want to turn this into a business, you've got to buckle down, and it's okay. Eventually you're going to break even, and you're going to start operating in the black, aka turning a profit. Your money in will be greater than your money out. Until I do believe it's cyclical. There'll be times where you're going to go right in operating in the red for a while, then you're going to go right back into the black, et cetera, et cetera.
Because it's all about developing your product, your game, and then releasing your game.
Yeah.
And then the selling.
Yes.
Selling your game and bringing in the revenue.
So get over the misconception that if you're not constantly operating in the black, i.e. turning a profit, you're failing. That is not how businesses work.
Yeah, as Steele said, it can be cyclical.
Yes.
The dev cycle is.
Yes.
Until you get a product to market, you're most likely going to be in the red.
Yeah, and so you put out a great game. Now you're working on your second great game. You might dip right back into the red for a while during that dev cycle. And then, boom, it goes gold, or DLC goes out for your first game. Boom, back in the black. You might break even for a couple of months. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Trust me, you'll know if your company's in danger of going under. Very clear indicator.
There'll be lots of indicators, and of course, the people that you're contracting with, the bookkeeping firms, that sort of thing. They'll let you know.
They'll let you know if you're in danger. All right, so now it's time for us to take questions from our live audience.
And if you've been watching, remember to use the podcast question feature in chat.
It costs a minute 50 points in our chat.
Yeah.
That's 15 minutes of watching. You know you've already done it. All right, let's go ahead and cut. We have a starting question.
Awesome.
From KV. KV says, earlier you said you should get some sort of official recognition. Okay, so he's talking about formation like an LLC.
Formation, okay.
If you're planning on using game development as a source of income. Since that is a subjective evaluation, are there any objective thresholds to be aware of, i.e. amount of sales or income? Let me go ahead and throw out my 2 cents. And
go ahead.
First off, it's not a subjective evaluation as to whether or not you want your studio to be an actual source of income or if you're just doing it as a one-off or a hobby. That's not subjective. That is you consciously deciding, I want my game studio to be my source of income or a source of income. And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be your studio. You could apply this to running an arcade. You could apply this to creating a tabletop game. It doesn't matter. When you consciously decide, I want this thing that I am doing to be a source, if not my main source of income, then that is the conscious decision. It is no longer subjective. You want to start doing the LLC, the S Corp, whatever. Now, if you're talking about a money threshold, I'm going to give you my opinion, and then Tio can talk and give you hers. I don't think there is one. I think that if I put out something on Steam and it made $100, I would be just as it would be just as good of a reason to turn that into a business as if it made 0 or 10,000. There's no number for me. That's going into how Studio Blue was formed. We decided, Teal and I decided we want to turn this into a business. When we made that conscious decision, it was no longer her and I, it was creating Studio Blue, the LLC, like the company.
Yeah.
Turning it over to you, honey.
Well, you hit all the high points. There's just one thing that I will add, and that is that regardless of what you've released in the past before you became a official studio, a legal entity.
Right.
Once you become that legal entity, then all money is connected to that entity.
Yes.
So, for example, anything that's released on Steam is released through that entity, and that's where the revenues come in.
Okay. So to kind of connect that to the person asking the question, so KV, if KV creates a game that he releases on Steam as himself, and it does, and it's successful and it brings in an income, let's say it brings in $5,000, and that's his $5,000.
That's his $5,000 that he accounts for personally.
Right, but let's say then he goes, hey, I want to do this as a full-time gig, so he makes Kingdom Incorporated. At that point, money from not that game, anything else, is always going to go into Kingdom Incorporated.
Kingdom Incorporated's account.
If he chooses, and he should, he can use the $5,000 from his first game as the starting capital.
Correct.
And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that'll do that. They'll do a single venture that will make them some money, and then they'll take that and use that as a startup capital for the business itself.
Yes.
Which becomes the regular, recurring, lifetime revenue that becomes their job.
Yeah.
It takes money to make money. So sometimes you got to kind of do a hobbyist, I'm using air quotes, style project that makes you some scratch, and then you use that to start running your business.
Yeah. Perfectly fine.
Perfectly fine. All right, the good question there. Good question. Okay, we have another.
Okay, this one's from Burke. Next question. A bit linked to the copyright trademark talk.
That was the intellectual property podcast from 2 weeks ago. Okay.
Are there advantages if you issue a trademark for a project as an LLC or as a company against requesting as a person?
I think I understand what he's asking. Let me go ahead and give my interpretation.
Okay.
If your company is creating a game, your company needs to go for that trademark. Let's bring up Bethesda and Redfall, which is potentially Elder Scrolls 6.
Right.
Bethesda Studios put forth the trademark for Redfall. It wasn't Todd Howard. So even if Todd Howard was the only person working for Bethesda, which he would tell you he is, LOL, he would still have Bethesda Studios put forth the trademark for Redfall, not Todd Howard. So if I'm understanding Burke properly, if you yourself are the sole proprietor of your game studio, once your game studio is a legal entity, the legal entity puts forth the trademark, not you.
Correct.
Yes.
It's because it's the legal entity that is producing the product and is conducting business.
See.
All business is conducted under the auspices of the legal entity.
Yes.
So the legal entity is the one that files for the trademark, the copyright, or the patent.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that is where it's important to either have an on-site lawyer, an attorney, or
one that you retained.
Right.
Retainer.
Whether it be through a service like Legal Shield or a single person who represents you.
Right.
Regardless, that's absolutely where you're going to want to have legal help.
Yeah.
In obtaining that. Let's see if we get any other questions while we're waiting to see if any others show up. Teal, it's a really rewarding thing, but it is a lot of work. And I think we need to stress to them that if you want to have a game studio, not just be a person making one game or two games, but if you want to be a game studio, if you want this to be your job, be prepared to put in the work.
Yes, there's a lot of work that goes into setting it up, and then once it's all set up, running it.
Yeah.
Because a studio is more than just making games.
Right.
That's the point of the studio,
right.
But the studio itself has to operate.
Yes.
And so all the other stuff I talked about, the legal, the financial, the HR side, that's all part of running a studio.
Yeah. It is, and I can tell you guys this, it is extremely rewarding owning your own business.
Yes, it is.
And watching it grow, like we've watched Studio Blue grow these past few years. It takes a lot of work. There's sometimes you're going to want to quit because it sometimes feels like nothing I do is enough.
Yeah.
I'll never get ahead. You're going to have the same woes that you have as a developer as you struggle to get your dream game, your baby, out to gold.
Yeah.
You're going to have those exact same struggles with your business. But if you succeed, when
you succeed,
it is a high like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
It is so rewarding to look at it and go, I made this happen. So I think that's all the questions we have. I want to go ahead and thank everyone who listens to us live and everyone who listens to us on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We do love you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for choosing us as as a source of information, as well as entertainment. And thank you so much for all of your support.
Absolutely. So join us next time for DLC Not Included. And remember,
anyone can give you the key, but you have to go through the door.